Hello, a very, very warm welcome. We're very pleased that you're here watching this, and we want to talk to you today about the Circle Holders Journey, a really amazing training. And I have with me here Julia. Julia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so myself and Tessa were co-authors of Circle Holding, a practical guide to facilitating talking circles. And we both have considerable experience running spaces where you can talk without interruption or judgment and listen without having to solve problems. So, what that looks like for me is that sometimes I go into corporates and I might run a session on something like imposter syndrome and bring people together to be able to unpack that and talk in that way so that they can resolve their own issues around that topic and also hear other people so that they feel that they're not alone. I also run circles in my studio at home, completely different to that. So I run a women's circle on a Thursday evening where people come together, and it's much more of a community space. And my background is in yoga, so those spaces for people who are practitioners in movement, and that can be such a useful skill to have when you're teaching a skill set. So, for example, meditation. If I'm teaching meditation, I don't just teach the practice, but I create circles where people can unpack their own experience of that practice. And I use it in my teaching as well. I don't really like to teach from the top down. I'd much rather share some knowledge and then have people sit in circle and talk about their own experience. Tessa, would you like to talk about your background in circle?
Yeah, very much also use circle skills within my yoga classes to create community and to um, people to have chance to just say how they are that day so I can set the tone of the class. And then doing standalone circles. So my women's circle has been going for over 10 years now, went online during the pandemic, but it's been going all that time. But with a range of people, so pregnancy circles, new mum circles, perimenopause circles, and also with children, which is really good fun. Sometimes with parents, like mum and daughter circles, a whole range, sometimes one-off events, sometimes quarterly or monthly, at festivals, in my living room, all sorts of different places. So we bring a wealth of experience about different kinds of circles where you might have some similarities. You might want to do it with a completely different demographic than us, but we love talking circles.
Absolutely. And when we think about the circle holders journey, we invite people in who have got that breadth of experience. So you might be somebody who is already bringing groups of people together. But what you want to do is create spaces that are a bit braver, where there's more space for each person to speak equally in that group. You might have found that you've come across challenges that you want to be able to talk through. So the circle holder journey is definitely for you if you are already holding spaces for groups of people to come together. And that could be within your community or in a workspace. So it could be something that you're doing personally for friends, family, and your community, but you could also be doing it as a leader. You could also want to bring it into a space where you're a participant and you're not necessarily the most experienced person in the space. You want to bring it into your organization or the place where you work so that you have a space where you can be heard.
And it's over 12 weeks so that there really is a chance to deepen your skills and also to deepen as a community with all the participants in that training, so that it mirrors what can happen in your circles wherever you're leading them. And that's why we bring in advanced skills. So advanced listening skills, advanced facilitation skills. So you've got lots of different tools up your sleeve to enable that process to happen. So that, it might be that you want to take people on a journey of transformation, and wherever those people are starting at, whether they've maybe got no listening skills that they've ever consciously used, you can take them to this place of really beautiful empathy, deep listening, very respectful listening. That is what we really need in the world right now.
Yeah, and we've just finished our most recent cohort of the Circle Holders journey. And what has happened is that we've had a real variety of people join us. So one of the persons who joined us was a coach, had a lot of experience, and they came to the space with circles that they were already running. And then as they built their skill set with us, they were using those skills in the circles that they were holding already. So what would happen is week by week, as we came together, they would be able to say, I ran my circle, I used this context. And also, because they already had experience of holding space, they were able to look at the techniques that we were sharing. So we do quite a lot of different types of listening practices, so that we can build confidence in bringing brave issues into circle, so that someone feels confident dealing with maybe tricky personalities or knotty issues. And the practice will happen in the session, and then they might take that practice into the circle that they're running, and then talk about how that works and how things are starting to change in the group that they're running. There was also somebody who shared a really, really beautiful picture. We've got a WhatsApp group that you can choose to join. It's really useful to join it. And in that WhatsApp group, she shared this really beautiful picture of the location of her circle and what she'd done about planning it. You could really see the effort and time that she'd taken to create the space. And we will have run a session previous to that about the importance of preparation and the importance of having an actual location that works well for your particular circle. So what we've seen as we've gone on the journey is different people with different levels of experience all coming together, and that adds the layers to the training. So this is a training that is live. It is about coming and being with us, taking that brave step. Because if what you're looking for is information, we've written a book. Or if you're looking for interactive information where you can ask questions as you go along, there's the self-study. This is about practical practice and then bringing your questions in. There's one person who was working up her bravery to be able to run a circle that was simply a talking and listening circle. So you could be someone who is used to bringing people maybe for 10 minutes or 15 minutes together as part of your experience. But what you want to do is be brave enough to be able to run 2 hours of a talking and listening circle, which is very, very different.
And I think the beauty of having 3 months for the training is that you will see different circles happening. And the WhatsApp group that Julia mentioned, have people sharing what the topic was that they'd planned for their circle and how it went down with the participants, maybe photos of the centerpieces. So you're constantly getting new ideas that you can feed into your own circles. And it's just that sense of community, because often as a facilitator, you're by yourself, you're not with your peers. Whereas with this group, you can feel very much supported, that you've got a space to lean into yourself.
And absolutely, we show that we're being brave at the same time. So, for example, throughout our process this time, we were constantly getting beautiful pictures from Tessa from the various circles that she was running as we went along. My pictures aren't quite as beautiful as hers. But I was also sharing the experience of the circles that I was holding. And we talk about the problems that we come across as well. We don't pretend to be perfect in any way, because we're constantly practicing circles. We are coming across challenges that we might not have come across before and learning as we go along too.
And it's also about the really practical questions about how much you're charging. Is it really the right kind of venue? Are you going to be overlooked, overheard? So we get into the nitty-gritty as you try out a circle. It might be changes have to be made, but you've got this supportive group around you to help that process and have that continuity to make this something sustainable that you can keep offering from your heart.
Yeah, I think what we found is that we needed a village, and that's constantly something that comes up. when we talk to people about circle is that when we create that space, we're creating a village for our participants, for the people who join us in circle. We're creating community, and that we need community too. In order to hold space for other people, it is so helpful to have a space where we're held and looked after, as it were, on our journey. So if you're thinking, I really want to be brave, or I'm already being brave and I really would like to have someone to bounce my ideas off, and I want to learn new skills, then this is the space for you.
And to try out things, in a space that feels comfortable, where you could try something and say, well, no, actually that didn't work. Because often we don't want to do that in the space that we're holding, but in the circle holders journey, there's space to say, well, I'd really love to try a different way of opening the circle this time. Give it a go. Maybe it will work, maybe you need to tweak it, but that's a space where you can be learning through doing, and that's really at the heart of what we're offering with the circle holders journey. And the amazing resources, so much material actually on the online platform, that you can dip into. So whether it's a specific demographic or a particular skill set that you need to really feel more confident in, there's all this background information to support the live sessions.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I need certification after certification these days in my life. I used to very much feel like I needed a piece of paper that proved that I could do something. So if you like having a piece of paper that proves that you can do something, I think often with circle holding, the proof is in the pudding. Is like, do you feel brave enough to actually do it? But if you like that piece of paper, we provide that piece of paper at the end of the training. You come along to the live training. The final session is really special because everyone forms part of the circle. Every single participant takes that brave step to hold a particular part of the circle. And then we show our appreciation for each other. So it's really beautiful. And you get that piece of paper that you might have wanted at the end. It is really important with the circle holders journey that you check your diary and you make sure that you are available for the live dates. And it's not only being available as in I can turn it on and be sitting in my car with my headphones on listening. It is about participation. It's about taking part. And that means that you will need to be able to speak and listen in a space that's quiet and not overlooked and overheard. So when you look at the dates and you think, yes, this is for me, do look at those dates and make sure it's something that you can carve out that time for. It's not a huge amount of time, so you could potentially play around with your diary a bit to create those spaces every couple of weeks so that we can be together. But that is a really key component. And then there's outside of our hours together, there are opportunities to meet up with other participants and to be part of a continuing conversation that happens outside of those live contact hours.
Mm. I think the only thing left to say really is we can't wait for you to join us. It's an enriching experience to be part of it, and uh, a space, in your week where you can pause and take stock. And so it's you've been looking after yourself as well as learning new skills. I think it's something that actually everybody could do with.
Absolutely. And you can find all the details at circleholding.org. If you look under the training section, it comes under the Circle Holders Journey. We would love to see you there.